United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Crystal, will you lead us in the four-way test, please?
Fellow Rotarians and guests, please join me in the four-way test for the things we think, say, or do. First,
Is it the truth?
second,
Is it fair to all concerned?
third,
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
fourth,
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
and fifth.
Will it not?
What's number 5 again? I want to hear number 5 again. Number 5. Here we go. Ready? Number 5. There we go. All right. Thank you very much. We're going to start off with some visiting Rotarians. Let's see who we have signed in. We have Bill McGregor. Bill McGregor from the Lacey chapter. We also have Clydia Kleikendell from Lacey. And Phil Comstock, and we're not sure where he's from. From Lacey, okay. Any other visiting Rotarians that would like to be recognized today? Great. All right, we have a few folks here that have signed in as guests. I have, who's Skylar's invitees? Skylar? Okay. Michelle, would you like to introduce Skylar?
I already did like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he put his application in, but I will do it again. So this is Skylar Shady, he's with Lakeside Industries, and thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, Skylar. It looks like we have Jerry's got Lori. Jerry, would you like to introduce
Yes,
Lori?
Lori Schindler is my guest, soon to be a member today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And is Len here? Oh, that's me. I would like to introduce Mary Catherine again, who has put her membership in, and we will be processing that soon. So, Mary Catherine. Do we have any other guests at this time that haven't been recognized? Fantastic, we'll move on. We've got a couple different announcements. Let's start off with Paul Harris Awards are a fantastic time for everybody, and it's great that we're able to recognize that. So I'd like to welcome Nate Peters up to make that presentation. Nate? Nate isn't here, okay. So we're going to postpone that until next week. My apologies on that. I thought I had seen him, but that must have been last week, and it was deja vu all over again.
Do we have before?
I am not. I'm not certain, and we'll talk off stage. Thank you. Thank you for that question, though. I really appreciate it. And, other announcements from our club? Yes, go ahead. Race Kendall, everybody.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I just have a quick announcement, a quick ask of everyone. Anyone who is interested in being part of the vocational committee, can you just see me after the meeting today? Give me 5 minutes, just so that I can talk with you and answer any questions. I need to rebuild my committee. All right, thanks.
All right, let's hear it for Grace, everybody. Okay, I also understand Lori. Lori wanted to speak. Go ahead, Lori.
Yay, Lori Carroll.
Let's hear it for Lori Carroll.
We have 2 weeks left on the book drive, and so what we're really trying to do is fill my garage and really annoy Tom Carroll. So that's thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements? Yes.
Yeah, just
come on up. I know you're loud. Come on up, because I can do this. Everybody, Nathan McGee.
Hi everyone, just a quick reminder that youth services will meet after the meeting in the back in the long table over there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, Madeline.
This is a very nice announcement that for everybody's information, in case you don't know, Lowell's mom passed last week.
So please keep Lowell in your thoughts, and we're all keep him dear to us, and that's certainly some sad news. Any other announcements for the, yes, go ahead, Doug Mah. Doug Mah, everyone.
So, kind of following up and closing out the joint Rotary project with the Lacey and Olympia clubs out in Rochester. So on Monday evening at 4:30, so Monday the 22nd, we're having an unveiling sort of ribbon cutting out there at the playground. So all the work that went into that playground remodel and update will be revealed to the entire community. The kids are already playing on it and whatnot, but it's a great opportunity for us to meet with the other clubs and celebrate the successful installation of a new toy out there at the Rochester Boys and Girls Club. The time is 4:30, Monday the 22nd. Please join us. It'll be great. Thanks.
Thank you, Doug. Any other announcements? All right, very, Madeline again.
You do know that I am investing some money today.
I did not know, so now I know. Madeline, I'd like to introduce Madeline up, who is going to do an induction for a new member. I'm excited about this. Madeline, go ahead.
Jerry. Jerry Farmer and Lori Schindler, please come forward. We have a new bubbly person in our group.
Is that me?
I don't think you're really new, Jerry, I'm just saying. You're almost as old as I
It's great out there.
am. So, Lori was born and raised in North Seattle, moved to Olympia in 1990. Attended ASU, COO, Vice President of Morningside. She teaches at Highline Community College Winter Quarter, ADA, Networking, Business Analysis, Diversity. She has 3 adult children, Nick, golf pro, Lindsay, pediatric dental hygienist, Emily, flight attendant for Delta Airlines. Wow.
That's right, so you can go to golf tournaments for free.
Yes, that's right. Any places and everywhere. She has 3 male granddogs, Bruiser, Henry, and Bo. She loves to run. Her happy place is Lake Chelan. She would rather eat at restaurants than cook. Smart lady. And her favorite books, the Dr. Seuss books.
Yeah, that's right. Who doesn't love green eggs and ham?
I know. Do they ship those here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Trying to get the small motor skills going. Yeah. Okay. So this part of the ceremony, we pin one another, just like an ancient, strange, failing cult. Thank you very much. Oh, I get the Meganet one? Oh, that's easier. All right, so welcome to Rotary.
We don't trust your opinions.
Thank you very much. She is pinned, ladies and gentlemen.
Please help me welcome Lori Schindler.
Thank you. That's great. One of the things I always like about that ceremony itself is at the end where everybody does stand and clap. I just think it's one of the best welcoming to a club. And so thank you very much for doing that. It's just one of those things that I just think it really endears people and welcomes them in. So thank you. With that said, we are moving on to our classification talk. And we have the great Mike Buchanan who's going to talk to us for about 3 minutes and giving his classification talk today. Mike, you got the stage.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Grace, for organizing the vocational class classification talks. I'm going to go ahead and give you a few minutes, a nutshell about Mike Buchanan here. So I'm going to make sure I'm seeing this A quick picture of the childhood pictures. I was born in Salem, Oregon, and my parents are to the left, and that's my brother and I, in our three-piece suits. Pinstripe was, I guess, my choice at that moment. And then to the right, to the left is me graduating, about the time I graduated high school.
Who's the hay bale?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And also, it was a time of sweaters. Sweaters were popular. That was a Christmas gift. Moving forward, I did 3 years in the Army right out of high school. I enjoyed that time and was able to help out with money for college. That would come up later. Started my career at Olympia Fire Department in 1993. I was 21 years old, just a kid. And from there, that's really what I've been doing. That, and then a big focus on family, which you'll see some pictures of here shortly. A lot of activities and hobbies that I like to do, but I did most of those before I became a father. Things that I do enjoy doing is being outside, riding motorcycles, being in the mountains, and you'll see some photos of us on vacation. We're either at the beach or in the mountains. That is me in 1994 when I was 22, I believe, and that is us in the back of Uncle Larry's old car right after we got married at our reception at the Schmidt Mansion. So you can see how local we are. 2007, we adopted our daughter Ava from China. She is the center of our world. If I had enough time to spend more than 3 minutes, we would just look at pictures of her and my family, but it's been a blessing, more than I can describe. Things that we like to do is, go snow skiing in the winter and fish for trout in a lake and come out empty-handed. But I love that photo with those little shoulders over like that. I just love it. Travel, we enjoy traveling. This is the picture to the left with the background. We went to China in 2016 to kind of revisit the area where, retrace our steps when we adopted Ava. And that's in Hong Kong, that picture right there. And to the right is the Disneyland, that whole thing, which is fun. So Olympia Fire Department is where I work. I've been there for 24 years. I love the department and the people. We're a very old department in the state, and we have the honor to be classified as a Class 2 fire department. There's only 4 departments in Washington State that's a Class 2. We're one of them. Seattle, Spokane Valley, Bellevue, and I think Kent. So let's see here. Moving on. Olympia Fire Department, we are also one of the founding members of Thurston County Medic 1, which is the ALS system, the paramedic system in the county. What's fortunate about being in the city of Olympia, we are a short, a small geographical area. We're able to respond really quickly, and as a result, we have we actually have the highest cardiac arrest rate in the county, and then our county is one of the best in the nation. So we're really in a good spot to be able to provide great EMS services. We also focus on prevention efforts and emergency management efforts. We have a full fire prevention bureau. We do plan reviews, fire inspections, and we also have an ordinance to ensure that all new construction that's residential has sprinkler systems. That's going to save lives. It's saving lives already. But if you march this out 25, 30 years, it's going to be a big game changer in improving the safety of the city of Olympia and the citizens that live there. Emergency preparedness is an effort we put into as well. Preparing for that big incident and the recovery of it. So partnerships in Olympia Fire Department, we have worked hard to build partnerships, and we've built it with our partners here in Lacey Fire Department and all through the county. Ways we've done that is we provide fleet services to over 200 emergency vehicles in the county, and if you look at that list, you can see it's pretty much all of the big fire departments. We do that in cooperation with LFD3 because we rent their shop in order to provide these services, so it's a good partnership for both agencies and everybody overall. We also have a regional fire training center that's amazing, and in that we provide training to Tumwater Fire Department. We help provide their training, but we also, Lacey has access to it through an agreement, and so we're all able to use this asset. So my career, hired as a firefighter, was able to work as a fire lieutenant for probably 12 years. Served 6 months in fire inspections, and that was challenging enough. I don't want to be a fire inspector. And I currently work as Assistant Chief of Operations. With that, I want to thank you for your time, and if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer anything you might have. But otherwise, thanks.
Well, thank you. That was fantastic, and I love that opportunity to get to know our membership even better. So we love that. Thank you, Grace, for continuously putting that on as part of your committee. This is a great time of year in general. We got fall coming on. The Seahawks are winning, so I know most of you are happy. That other team is winning that I won't talk about, and my baseball team might be winning. But most importantly is we've got the political candidate forums. And they are just a fantastic time for our club to get together, learn more about local politics, get to understand the upcoming election so that all of us can be educated voters. And with that, that's our main program for today. It is my pleasure to welcome Doug Mah. Doug.
So good morning, everyone. Morning. So Troy wanted me to let you know that we do have 2 high school students in the other room watching the forum today. So one of the great things that we're able to do is not only educate ourselves, but also some other students and people in the area. So it's a great thing to be able to live stream this and be able to provide this venue for the candidates to come out and talk about why we should be voting for them in the upcoming elections. So as you all know, this, as Lennon just said, this is the political season, and as a recovering politician, this is kind of an exciting time. I get all jittery and excited, and I come home and bug Kathy about that. But this year's election includes races for state positions. Joining us today are candidates Beth Doglio and Acosta, running for the 22nd Legislative District, position number 1. So by way of background, according to the Thurston County Auditor's website, state representatives serve 2-year terms. During legislative sessions, the legislature enacts or rejects the legislation affecting public policy in the state, provide for the levy and collection of taxes and other revenue to support state government and assist local government, and appropriate funds for these purposes. The position is considered a partisan office. Beth Doglio is the incumbent and identifies as a Democrat. Acosta is the challenger and identifies as a Libertarian. Washington's 22nd Legislative District is one of 49 districts in Washington State. The district includes the state capital of Olympia and much of the area around it, including parts of Lacey and Tumwater. So I'd like to invite our candidates to kind of move forward as I introduce and read a brief bio that I found online. Alan is a member of the Libertarian Party and as regional director for 2 terms. He retired from the U.S. Army at the rank of Major. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Public Safety Administration with a concentration in criminal investigation from Eastern Michigan University, and is also a graduate of the Army Logistic and Management College from Fort Lee, Virginia. His community service work includes Veterans of Foreign Wars, Veterans Legislation Coalition member, 9/9 Line Veterans, Route Step Outdoors volunteer, Wounded Veterans Fishing volunteer, Disaster Relief Service volunteer, March on Our Rights organizer, Crazy Faith Feed volunteer, Veteran Homelessness board member, and a Nature Center volunteer. So, Alan here on my right, your left. Beth Doglio is currently serving her first term in the State House. She most recently served as the campaign director for Climate Solutions. She was the founding executive director of the Washington Conservation Voters and is also a field organizer for the National Abortion and Reproductive Rights Action League. She has a bachelor's degree from Indiana University in Political Science and Telecommunications. Beth has volunteered in the social service sector with Solid Ground and Noel House Homeless Shelter, on international development in Nicaragua, and as an advocate for parks and sidewalks. And she was also her children's elementary school PTA president. So, welcome back. Okay, make sure we get the backdrop off. Looking right here. Good. We're gonna look good online, right? So, Beth and Alan, welcome. So one thing you'll note here at Gateway Rotary Club, we only have 1 microphone, which means we have to share it. So we'll go through a process where I'll ask questions and you'll come to the microphone. And I'm also the timekeeper. And there's no clock on the wall here, so this is it. So as we talk, And as your time kind of clicks down, I will slowly start to invade your space. The closer I get, the less time you have. If I'm physically bumping into you, time's up. And if I grab the microphone, that's it, we're done. So that's how we're going to do this. So each candidate is allowed to make 2-minute introductory remarks, and then I'll ask them a question about the top 3 issues facing Washington State, and then we'll go to questions from the club. And since I do not have a coin, because I have no change, I'm just going to ask Alan to start off with the 2-minute introduction, and then we'll do this alphabetically, I guess. Alan, 2 minutes.
First of all, thank you for having me here, and definitely it's a new experience for me, especially coming out of the military and being a community activist and being in front of a new crowd. And a little bit about me: I immigrated here back in 1979 from the Philippines. I'm a naturalized citizen. Actually, during Ronald Reagan's second term, I actually was a small pool with my family that he swore us in. I love America. You know, when I immigrated here, my family immigrated here, we embraced the American values. We had, back in the Midwest, you know, we implemented the good neighbor policy where everybody helped us out, you know, and people participated in the community. And these are the kind of the values that I bring. Again, I served 17 years. I was medically retired from the military. I've had 3 combat tours, Purple Heart recipient, and I've been continuing to give back to the community ever since I retired. It's my way of continuing my service, and I love this community. JBLM was my last duty station, and I fell in love with this state, and I wanted to continue to serve my community in Legislative District 22. So with that, you know, I became politically involved, working on campaigns, working on issues that are important to me, and following the legislative process up at the Capitol. I've organized lobby days for various outreaches and groups. So I have some experiences in the background, but now I'm coming into the forefront and actually trying to lead by example and motivate.
So I am Beth Doglio, and I have been absolutely honored to serve you as your state representative in the 22nd Legislative District. I come from Illinois. I was raised by educators. Both my parents were educators. I went to Indiana University, and when my sister moved out to the Northwest and showed me pictures of the mountains, I was like, that's where I'm headed. And so I moved out here, and I got my feet wet in this area by working on Jolene Unsol's campaign in 1988 and 1990. Went on to become the first executive director of Washington Conservation Voters. And for the last 12 years, and I still do serve as the campaign director for Climate Solutions. And because of that, I bring a lot of knowledge, deep knowledge, passion, and conviction to find solutions to the climate crisis. So I have been lucky to vice chair the Capital Budget Committee, and I've been a member of the Technology and Economic Development and also the Labor and Workforce Standards Committees. I've been super proud to sponsor legislation or budget requests, strengthening living wage laws, gun responsibility measures, providing more affordable housing, and ensuring that children have access to health care. If I'm re-elected, which I hope I am, I will continue to advocate for our state employees, huge part of the constituency here in the 22nd Legislative District, increase access to broadband, LGBTQ issues, and making sure that we have a strong social safety net for those who find themselves in need. Prior to running for office, I co-chaired the first successful Olympia Parks and Sidewalks campaign, and I worked with the Washington Toxics Coalition to reduce the use of pesticides in our schools and our local parks. I'm a working mom. I've got 2 kids. My child, Aspen, 14, just started at Olympia High School, and my son, Ian, is pursuing a bachelor's degree, and I would absolutely love to have the opportunity to serve you again.
So the first question, we'll start with Beth, is what are the 3 most pressing issues facing Washington State and the 22nd Legislative District, and how will you address them? 1 minute.
1 minute?
1 minute.
Okay, so affordable housing is absolutely one of the most critical issues facing it. We need to move to a councilmanic vote so that we can have home funds in other communities that don't need to be to a ballot. It's absolutely a crisis, should be a councilmanic vote. We need to increase housing trust fund dollars, and we need to encourage density in our cities. We need more housing. Supply is being outstripped by demand. Climate change, we need to move to 100% fossil-free future. We need to electrify transportation as quickly as we can, and we need to increase public transportation. Mental health, we need to build out our community mental health system very rapidly, and we need to be really creative about figuring out how to build the personnel to provide the services that our community so needs right now.
Great, thank you. Alan, top 3, 1 minute.
Top 3. We all agree, affordable housing. It's definitely what we need here, and how I want to address that is actually look at reforming our land use laws, our zoning laws, and also I want to reduce the tax burdens on our family. We all know that residents here in our legislative district 22 in the state of Washington, we're tax fatigued. Just the overburdened cost of living here is just it's just so high. It's just hard for homeowners to even just stay in their houses now. As I work the communities, one of the things that, especially in the point in time, that cascade into a lot of financial crisis is just being able to afford to live in this state. And as the housing rent continue to go up, it just hurts.
Thank you. So the next question, we'll start with Alan, comes from Diana C. Diana asks, or states that school violence is a hot topic. Does your vision for increased school safety lean toward authority, rules, and enforcement, or building of community norms, and purposeful inclusion? 1 minute.
School safety. I know it was a hot topic in last legislative session. A couple of the senators and House reps have made some proposals, especially in the choice of training school staff and teachers. We know that we do have some legislation on the books already for that. One of the things I want to address, especially that we've seen in the patterns with the last school shootings, is how we educate our students. And one of the things that we've seen in Europe is smaller school sizes, and for them to also not just reading, writing, and arithmetic, how they deal with each other. And one of the things we need to also look at is more social work, school counselors, and right now we have a shortage of that.
Thank you. Beth, 1 minute.
Well, it's been a tragedy what's been happening across the country in terms of school shootings, and I certainly don't support bringing in more guns into our school. Those guns weren't in our schools, and people didn't have access. They weren't locked up. They were trained to use them better. We wouldn't have as much school shootings, and hopefully we will never have another school shooting, but unfortunately I don't think that's where we're headed. So I do believe that it does start with the education of our kids around inclusion, as the question talked about, and a diversity and a welcoming of all ideas and people from different backgrounds. And I think that our teachers are absolutely critical. We do need more school counselors. There's a ton of mental health issues that are happening with our kids right now. Being the mom of a teenager, I can see so many of the kids are struggling with that right now. And so building our school counselors is a really important thing.
Thank you. Everybody got a job. Just doing my job. Just doing my job. So, by way of background, Initiative 1631 concerning clean air and energy will appear on the November ballot. A yes vote supports the initiative to do the following: enact a carbon emission fee of $15 per metric ton of carbon beginning January 1st, 2020, increase the fee by $2 annually until the state greenhouse gas reduction goals are met. And the initiative also uses the revenue from the fees to fund various programs, projects related to the environment. Joe D. asks, are you in favor or against I-1631? Opponents have said that the money raised by this carbon tax will be administered by a non-elected board. Why or why not is this a good idea? Beth, 1 minute.
Okay. I am definitely an advocate of 1631. With the IPCC report that was released last week, I think we all, if you read it, if you know about it, please go out and seek it out. We need to move at an unprecedented pace to stem the climate crisis. 1631 is going to be going to provide the kinds of resources that we need to transition our economy away from its reliance on fossil fuels and towards clean energy. I do think that there are some issues with the initiative, the unelected board that's coming up. I think that those are folks who can help us figure out how to move forward with where to invest, and the legislature can have additional oversight if that becomes some sort of a block to making progress on this very important issue. But I'm definitely a supporter of 1631, and I hope that you will join me in voting for it on November 6th.
Great, thank you. Alan, 1 minute.
So 1631, the carbon tax, I want clean air. I want clean water. You know, I have a daughter that uses the system here, the parks and all that stuff we love the outdoors. I'm an outdoors kind of a person. But 1631 is just so broad. It's going to cost families, and I think we need to look at other ways to have a more common sense solution to what's plaguing our environment, especially our human footprint. But 1631 is not it. I will be definitely, I'm not supportive of 1631. And again, the U.S. Atmospheric Sciences, they also disagree. It needs a national footprint for it to work. So I vote no.
Thank you. So this next question comes from Nate M. Nate asked, if you could make one bold change in your political party on behalf of the 22nd Legislative District, what would it be? We'll start with Alan.
One bold change in my political party. As you know, the Libertarian Party, it's very new. It's started in 1971 by a group of activists, and comparatively to the other two parties, we're still growing, but we're one of the fastest growing third parties in the nation. So one of the things one bold initiative that I'd like to see in our party is especially educating the voters on what libertarians and what we bring to the table and a different kind of perspective that we bring to government policies. We have small education organizations out there that they're doing their part, but I'd like to see more outreach with the citizens.
Great, thank you. Beth.
I don't know that it's necessarily a change, but I think the commitment to changing our upside-down tax system is something that I would like to see both parties and the whole state really just take a hold of, because we are taxing our lower income people at a much higher level proportionally than we are our upper income people, and we need to find solutions that really move towards a much more progressive tax system in the state of Washington. And I think both parties tend to get trapped in the anti-tax and sort of that mindset, and we need to be thinking about who we're taxing and as opposed to, you know, limiting and that sort of thing. We need to we do need to limit the folks that we're taxing at the lower income level and start to tax those at the higher income level more. And that's what I'd like to see our party embrace wholeheartedly.
Okay. Yeah, I stopped you. I thought you were finishing, so I stopped.
Oh, I'll just keep talking, Doug.
Yeah. So the next question comes from Bill S. Bill asks, is the legislature's McCleary fix good enough, or does it need more work? If so, what areas do you feel need improvement? We'll start with Beth, 1 minute.
So we did meet the Supreme Court's mandate to fix McCleary, but the school funding issue is long from over. Huge changes, lots of impacts, something that we're going to be having to work on for many years to come. I think we need to give a little bit more access to levies at the local level. I think we cut that back too far, and we'll see that play out even more over the next couple of years. We also need to fix special ed, and I really think we need to go back to a salary schedule. Those are things that I think you'll see some action on. Certainly Representative Dolan will be taking a lead, and my seatmate will be taking a lead on that in this next legislative session.
Thank you. Alan.
I agree that the state has met its constitutional requirements for the McCleary fix. But one of the things I've seen, you know, I volunteer at my daughter's school, especially in some of the rural areas, and it's one of the things that we're going to have to take a look at is how we spend the monies that's going towards the schools, especially the urban and rural divide between the school districts, and then also the measurable stuff. From what I've heard from legislators, the experience-based value approach to how we distribute these funds. So the McCleary did fix it, how we were going to bring in monies to our schools. Now we have to look at how we're going to distribute those funds in the rural-urban divide with the school district. So I agree that it's going to be a couple years.
Thank you. So we'll ask one last question from the members before we move on to the opportunity for you to ask each other a question and then a 1 minute close. So Janine E. asks, before you decided to run for political office, how involved were you in the community you are now asking to represent? We'll start with Alan.
I got my political start being an activist in the community. As an activist, it's where you'll find activists where there's shortfalls in government policies and in the communities, and that's where I'm at. I work with food insecure families. I work with the homelessness in our communities, and also the veterans issues. So I've volunteered my time with Crazy Faith Ministries downtown, Joyful Hands Ministries. We serve about 25,000 plates a year. What we do is we build relationships with our street family. Once we build relationships with our street family, then we start trying to identify what their shortfalls are and then get them to the proper services that they need. With the veterans outreach, you know, I work with a lot of PTSD, TBI veterans, and what we do is we try to get them holistically back in shape mentally and then get them integrated back to the community.
Thank you. Beth, 1 minute, involvement in the community.
Well, I've lived in Olympia since the year 2000, and I have been very engaged in many aspects of the community. Like I said, I was the co-chair of the successful 2004 Parks and Sidewalks campaign and went on to serve on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee for the City of Olympia. I had my children, and I spent a lot of time in the elementary school working for the PTA. I started an after-school program so that kids could have access to art, dance, and drumming and carpentry at Roosevelt Elementary, and then I became the president there. So I served on a number of local boards as well, and I just absolutely have loved being a part of this amazing, awesome community.
Great. So we have time.
Oh, well, you know, I started a soccer team too. A women's soccer team.
Okay, so now each candidate will have an opportunity to ask a question of their opponent. Any question? The opponent will have 1 minute to respond, and then the opponent will have an opportunity to ask a question. So Beth, your question for Alan.
So Alan, I have heard you speak with great appreciation and concern for, and I appreciate this, you know, your concern for homeless folks, your concern for those who are food insecure, your concern for the environment. And I'm just wondering, you know, and we had a presentation from Mr. Buchanan here about his work in the community. That's all paid for with tax dollars. And I'm just wondering how it feels like you want to see more services, and I'm just wondering how you intend to pay for that, and how government plays a role in making those, you know, in solving those problems.
So some of the experiences I got, especially working overseas, is looking to non-government organizations. Here in the States, nonprofit. I work with a lot of nonprofit organizations, especially the grassroots that are not funded by the state, by the state or subsidized by the state. So a lot of these organizations are volunteer-based and donation-based 501c, and we have a lot of subject matter experts from mental health to and to include other veterans with skill sets that help work with the community. So these are the nonprofits I work for, as those folks that give their professional time and also their volunteer and monies to these organizations. So that's how I've been working.
Okay. So Alan, you get to ask Beth a question.
So family court reform is a very passionate issue of mine, and I followed a lot of the legislation up in Olympia. It's been going on for about 3 years now. The co-parenting bill, shared parenting, started off as working with the Democrat Party, and the initial legislation started from there. The following year, we needed to bring a bipartisan support, and so we started working on the language that the Republicans would like, and then it was abandoned by the Democratic Party. So we're still trying to figure out a way how to bring bipartisan support to the co-parenting issue, especially when this year we had the fatherhood. Okay, so do you support co-parenting? Would you support co-parenting legislation?
Well, I think that kids need really a large community to make sure that they are, you know, brought into the world as adults, as functional, contributing members of our community. And so I think that both parents play a huge role, or both parents and extended family play a huge role in making sure we've done some work around making sure that grandparents have a little bit more access to kids that are in homes that have experienced a divorce. So I would have to see the exact legislation to say whether or not I support it, but I certainly support efforts to keep both parents engaged and extended family engaged in children's lives.
So we'll kind of wrap things up. I think I'd like to have Alan go first on your 1 minute close, and then we'll end with Beth. So 1 minute closing, please. Thank you.
Well, it's definitely been on the campaign trail. It's been an experience, and I've enjoyed it quite a bit. Meeting voters here in Legislative District 22, and we continue to engage our citizen here and continue to work in our communities. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Representative Doglio, for your work, and looking forward to continue to work with the voters here in Legislative District 22. Thank you. Thank you.
I can't believe that you're all here at 7 a.m. participating in democracy. I really cannot thank you enough for being here at 7 a.m. to participate in democracy. It just makes my heart warm up. Thank you, Alan. You've been just a great person to run against, but also I appreciate all that you do for the community, and it's been a pleasure getting to know you. I really hope that you all participate in the November 6th election. It is, I think, one of the most important elections that I've ever experienced in my lifetime, and I think all of our participation is very important. So I would absolutely love the opportunity to serve you again in the legislature, and I hope that you will consider voting for me. Thank you so much for being here.
Doing another round of applause for our candidates here.